Hey guys, my name is Amanda Morrissey, and welcome to the first official episode of Too Pretty to Be Unhappy. I am so excited to be doing this podcast with you guys and to be taking this journey with you. So for the first episode, I really thought that it was important to talk about all things mental health. I think that this is important because mental health is going to weave its way through almost every story that I'm going to talk about from here on out, and how those stories affected my mental health, the decisions that I made during those times of my life due to my mental health, and just to start to shine a light on the fact that this doesn't have to be such a taboo subject. We can talk about it openly. We can talk about our struggles and our sadness, some of the days when we feel great and some of the days when we don't feel so great. And that's okay. I'm really excited to talk about all of this with you guys. When I was putting this podcast together, when I was putting this episode together specifically, I felt like some of my thoughts and the way that I wanted to go about it were a bit of chaos because there are so many little stories and it kind of felt like it was going all over the place. When I sat back and looked at it and thought about it, I'm like, of course it feels like chaos because it is chaos. The way that my mind was working and does work sometimes, some days, is chaos. I wanted to make sure that I was touching on everything just to fully get the story across. And I realized that it doesn't all have to happen in this episode. We are going to talk about these stories in episodes to come. I do want to give you kind of the first big, real picture of my journey. When I realized that I was having an issue, when I realized I needed help, how I told my family and friends. Let's get into all of that right now. It's hard for me to pinpoint where it all went wrong. It was created over time. It was a culmination of events, thoughts that just kind of crept up on me over 10 plus years. I guess if I wanted to start from the beginning, growing up, I have always had an internal struggle with my body, with my weight, with my image. I put a lot of my self-worth on the way that I looked. I wanted to be skinny enough. I wanted to be pretty enough. I think that these negative thoughts about myself started from when I was young, being worried about what size I was. I remember being in high school and being a size 8 to 10 and feeling like shit. Please, I would kill to be an 8 to 10 now. And it's so funny because I know everyone looks back and they're like, oh my God, remember those days? Like, I remember looking at this picture and thinking that I was fat. Girl, you look so good. I wish that I could go back and tell a man, stop it. You look beautiful. You look good. So I think that some of the negative thoughts about myself definitely started then. From there, it kind of grew. I think some of it too came from some of the relationships that I entered. My family would always joke that I had a bit of a savior complex. I would choose men that I thought needed saving and that I could save them. I think that my sadness also came from some of those struggles in those relationships. I have been in relationships, which we will get into in further episodes. I have dated plenty of narcissists in my day. If anyone has ever out there dated a narcissist, you know that the type of damage that can be done. They make you question yourself. They make you question your worth. I found that I was trying to change who I was. I was making decisions based on my partner of, oh, well, I'm not going to go out tonight because it's going to make them uncomfortable. Or, oh, it's going to start a fight. Anyone that knows me knows that I love to dance. And I'll never forget, I was dating this one guy in college, and he used to hate it when I would dance because he said that it brought too much attention to me. And I was dating him, and why would I want other attention? You know that your dancing brings attention to yourself. Why would you want to do that? So the one thing in my life that brought me the most joy growing up and that I identified with, I started not to do. I gave him the power to show me my worth. I thought, you know what? Well, he loves me and I love him, and this is something that will make him more comfortable if I don't do this, so I'm just not going to do it. It's things like that and relationships that have kind of chipped away at my mental health. I know that also at that age, college age, you're growing to who you are. We go to college when we're 18. Technically, we're adults. We're not. We're still kids at that point, and we're still developing. I think that at that crucial time of development, I entered into relationships that were not healthy for me and add that to my body image. And I think that that's really kind of what kickstarted this underlying sadness. We'll get into more of dating narcissists in a later episode because I definitely want to dive into that topic more. Another thing with dating the narcissist, I started to turn into someone that I didn't even recognize and I didn't even like. You almost go into fight or flight mode when you're in a relationship like that. Any situation or conflict that you enter, amplified immediately 10 times, because that's what you're used to. You're used to, in your relationship, coming up against conflict and knowing that it's going to come to a head and knowing that it's going to turn into a blowout. So you immediately just jump to that. It's the fight or flight. I started amplifying conflicts because that's the only thing that I was used to. I almost felt like I was in survival mode for those years. And I turned into this person that I didn't like. I was angry all the time. All the time. I was mad. I was looking for fights. I was going out with friends, going out to the bar, looking for girl fights, getting into physical altercations. I think that that's where also a bit of my savior, strong friend complex came from as well, if that makes sense. I was made to be because I was always in a fight or flight mode after some of these relationships that were constant conflict and constant screaming and constant name calling. And I just started to turn into someone that I didn't want to be. A few years later, graduated college. I worked for a really great company, being, in college, partying all the time. It was fun. You're going out all the time. I was in a sorority. Awesome. Then I started working for a spirit supplier where we were going out still continuously all the time. And I was consuming a lot of alcohol. So from, let's say, my college years, which was 4 years, and then I got into the industry of spirits, it was a constant cocktail here, going out on this night. When you're in that industry, and I think it's a lot of corporate America too, I don't think that it's only the spirits industry. Because from what I've heard from friends who have been in other industries is that like corporate America, like it's a lot of schmoozing, it's a lot of going out, it's a lot of dinners, and it was a blast. I had a blast. I met some of the coolest people. These jobs in this industry allowed me to travel and move to different places. I moved to Michigan and I was living in Manhattan, and it was so fun. What I didn't understand is that this sadness and depressive nature and what was living inside of me was being suppressed. These feelings were being suppressed by the alcohol, because alcohol is a depressant. I was drinking consistently. So when you're continuously, for years and years and years, putting a depressant in your body and suppressing your actual feelings, they're not really coming to the surface. They're not, you're not dealing with them. You're just continuously pushing them down. And I learned that in therapy. Shout out to my therapist. Love you so much. Changed my life. But you're not really dealing with it. So that bit kind of came to a head when everything slowed down in COVID. I had gained a lot of weight, and I had been single at that point for 7 or 8 years. So I graduated college. That relationship that I was in college ended, and I went on like a 7 or 8 year stint of being single. There was a situationship here or there, which we'll get into, but like not really on the radar. So imagine being alone for 8 years, and all of your friends in those 8 years are getting married, having kids, and you're so genuinely happy for them. I was, and I am. But you can't help but start to feel like you're behind on the timeline. And I know that we preach, and I preach We're not on anyone's timeline. We're not on the timeline that society set for us. But it's still underlying that little bit of like, wow, I'm in my 30s and I don't have kids, and some of my friends are on their third kid. And by the time I do have kids, their kids are going to be grown. And you start to be able to feel like you can't relate to your friends anymore. Or you go into a setting with them and a lot of the conversation is revolving around things that you can't relate to. And that's not their fault. It's just, it is what it is. And although you're so wildly happy for them, it feels like a constant reminder of, wow, I'm behind. And a lot of that I was compartmentalizing and putting towards the fact that I was overweight. Well, if I lose weight, I'm going to get a boyfriend and then a fiance and then be married and have kids. I was putting my worth into my weight and into the way that I looked. So I thought to myself, you know, Amanda, you've been single for 8 years. If I don't have children of my own, or if I don't have a partner, a life partner, and, you know, a husband or whatever, what else is there to fulfill me? Well, so far it's been my career. I jumped so headfirst into my career that was how I identified. Well, I'm the girl working on her career, making these career moves, working her way up in the corporate world. So I don't have time for a boyfriend, or I don't have time for this or that and the third. Hiding behind the fact of my thought being, you don't have a boyfriend because you're overweight. That was the wall. That was my defense mechanism. Well, no, I don't have a boyfriend because I'm overweight. I don't have a boyfriend because I'm focusing on my career. And both of those are bullshit. It's like, it's so and now, like, looking back, but this is truly genuinely how I felt and what I thought. I mean, it's wild to me now that I was thinking this way, but we're going through this journey and this story together. COVID hits and I think to myself, you know what, Amanda? The world is shutting down. You don't have the temptation of going out and drinking and eating and all this kind of stuff. Take this time to work on yourself and work on your body and work on your health. I am not here to shit on anybody that wants to lose weight. I understand the feeling of going down a pant size and it feels good. And I also understand and applaud those who want to lose weight for their health. And they want to lose weight for the right reasons. I'm telling you right now, I was not losing weight for the right reasons. I, in my mind at that time, wanted to lose weight because I thought that it would bring me happiness and love and that I would be my best self thin. And I was putting all of my worth into my weight. If I lose weight, I'm going to get a boyfriend. If I lose weight, I'll look better in these pictures. And I almost felt like I was like putting my life on pause until I lost the weight. I can't do this until I lose weight. And I was putting those barriers on myself. So during COVID, I took the time. And so I started working out, which was great. That was the healthy aspect. But on the flip side, I was restricting myself in calories to about 500 a day. What the fuck? I was so hungry. Guys, I was so hungry all the time. All the time. It also brings me back to someone telling me, the quote was, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. How fucked up is that? In quarantine, I'm heavily restricting myself and my calories, and I'm not drinking. So now this is the first time that I am not drinking consistently in over 10 years. So what starts to happen? Oh, all of those feelings, all of that sadness that I was pushing down, slowly starts to creep up to the surface. And I'm losing all this weight, and I'm getting thin. And now I'm getting really sad. And I'm like, hold on. Nope. Because they told me that if I get skinny, I'm going to be happy. And this is the opposite. So what the fuck is going on? So now all of these feelings and all of this sadness that I started to feel really started to come to the surface. I was able to negate some of it with fitting in smaller clothes, liking the way that I looked more in pictures because I was losing a massive amount of weight. So I lost about 87 pounds in COVID. And it was over a year. But even still, it was a wild change. Fast forward, March of 2021, I reconnect with someone from my past. I truly thought that this was a sign. Wow, Amanda, you lost the weight. You look thin. Someone from your past has come back and you're reconnecting, and this is great. This is what I worked for. This is it. There's no way that this story doesn't end with us not happily ever after, being together. Awesome, right? This is another story that we'll get into later on. I think that because I was alone for so long, for eight years or so, finally when you get that glimmer of hope and like that glimmer of like someone that's truly interested in you and you have a connection with, and you're feeding into this romanticized version of this relationship of like, oh, they're back, we're gonna be together, this is the story, we're doing it for the plot, we're doing it for the romance. I started feeding into this idea, and I wasn't seeing this relationship or this person for what they were. Everyone hates the D word. I was so desperate for this to work and for this love. I finally saw that glimmer of, oh my God, I'm on the way now to understanding and being able to relate to my friends again. Being in the relationship, having kids, great. We'll get into what this relationship truly was, but overall, it was another like narcissistic relationship. There were so many red flags that we'll get into later on. I was wrapping myself in a scarf of red flags, being so rose-colored glasses. No, it's not, it's great. Because I was feeding into this idea and this story of this romance and how great it was going to be, and how it was my turn. I'm going to be able to be the one to have the wedding, have the kids, etc. It turned out that it wasn't going to work out. To be alone for 8 years and then to finally have that glimmer of hope and then have it ripped away from you because I found out that he was still talking with his ex, etc. And I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. You're not choosing me. And I walked away. That was fucking hard because I wasn't just saying goodbye to that relationship. I was saying goodbye to the hope of the future that I was finally thought that I was getting. And that was kind of the cherry on top of where this mental break came from. After that relationship, obviously you go through the heartbreak. Everyone does what they do during heartbreak. It's the fucking worst feeling in the world. Now I have all of these feelings that have been coming to the surface that I've been pushing down farther and farther about me, my self-worth, my image, my weight, feeling behind by society's standards, having my heart broken, all this kind of stuff, right? Like, it fucking sucked. I'll never forget, this is where it all changed. I'm feeling all these feelings for a few months, and I think that I'm dealing with it. And I think that I'm putting on a strong face and I'm putting on a brave face because I have always been the strong friend. Anyone that knows me, from the time I think I was even middle school, maybe high school, I have always been the strong friend. I've always been the one there for my friends, being the protector, and I never had any problems of my own because I was a strong friend. So I didn't have any problems. And that's not to say that I didn't think my friends were going to be there for me, because this has absolutely nothing to do with them and about what I thought of myself. Because they would and have been there for me in a heartbeat. One of the greatest support systems that I could ask for. But in my head, in my mind, I couldn't have problems. I couldn't have sadness or issues because I was the strong friend. So even after this breakup, I was the strong person. I don't give a shit. Fuck that guy, whatever. Trying to act so strong and so big and brave when I was dying inside. I was dying. I was crying every day. I was on the brink of tears every day. And it wasn't just the breakup. It was everything. It was everything coming to the surface. And it's just that breakup was the cherry on top that kind of sent me over the edge. Come September of 2021, I am at my dad's birthday dinner. It's my immediate family, my nephews, my niece, my sisters, brother-in-laws, aunts, uncles, and we're all sitting down to this beautiful dinner out at this restaurant. And I get there and I sit down. I begin to shake. Nothing triggered me. Nobody said anything. Then I felt this lump in my throat. And I felt the tears coming on. And all I felt inside, and the only way that I can describe it, if you've never had this happen to you, I can't describe the low that I felt inside. Lower than low. Sad, depressed. What's lower than sad and depressed? I don't know. That's where I was. And I run to the bathroom because I don't have control over my body or my emotions. Nothing triggered me. So for this to just come on, I was scared to death. I get in the bathroom and I start to hyperventilate. I'm in the bathroom and I'm crying and I'm shaking and I can't catch my breath. I don't know what to do. I almost got on the ground in the bathroom and got in the fetal position, and I hear a knock on the door, and it's my sister. And she's like, "Hey, man, you okay? I saw you get up and run from the table." I open the door and I'm shaking and I'm crying and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, "I don't know what's wrong, Megan." I was so scared. And she goes, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know." I go, "Nothing happened. I don't know." I go, I'm so sad. And I can't breathe and I'm shaking and I'm crying and I don't know what to do. And she's like, "Man, I think you're having a panic attack. I think you're having an anxiety attack." I just couldn't stop crying. And I tried to gather myself. I was like, "You know what? I think I'm all right. I think I'm okay." And so she goes back out. I like wipe my tears. I take a few deep breaths and I go back out there and I sit there. I'm there for, it couldn't have been more than 30 seconds to a minute. And I start to lose it again. And I looked at my brother-in-law and I looked at my sister and I just gave her these eyes and I ran to the bathroom again. I started shaking and I couldn't breathe, hyperventilating and crying. And she comes back and she's like, I was like, I have to go home. And I was like, "I don't know what's wrong with me." That was so scary because I wasn't triggered. There was nothing that like set me off to have that reaction. It was uncontrollable. And I've never had this happen before. It was so uncontrollable, and that scared me so much. I told Megan, I go, "You need to tell Dad I'm so sorry for ruining his birthday dinner." I was like, "I have to go home." I was like, I can't be in public. I don't know what to do." A part of me was like, "Should I go to the hospital?" I go home. I was staying with my sister at the time because I got home and I just cried the whole night in my bed. I remember thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. Anyone that has ever been there, what a dark thought. Never in a million years would I think that I would feel this way. I don't feel this way. I'm the strong friend. And I realize I'm no exception to this. The next day I woke up and I come out of the room and my sister's standing there and she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "I'm not good." And all of a sudden there was a knock on the door and it was my mom. She looked at me, she's like, "We need to talk." And I was like, "Yeah, we do." So we go outside in the back patio and we're sitting there and we're talking. And I just looked at her and I was like, "Mom, I need help." I was like, "I'm so scared." And she said, "Whatever you need." She's like, "I just want you to be happy." And she's like, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "I didn't know that it was this bad." And I was like, "I didn't know either. I didn't realize that it was this bad." It was in that moment that I knew I needed to make a change. And I knew that I needed help. And I knew that I had to drop this strong girl defense mechanism because I wasn't okay. And it was in that moment that I was like, it's okay to not be okay. I just know that I don't want to feel this way. And I sat back and I thought about the night before when I thought to myself that I don't want to do this anymore. The next morning, I was like thinking back on that thought and I'm like, I do want to do this. I want to see my nephews grow up and I want to see my niece grow up. I want to go to my best friend's weddings. I want more time with my sisters. And so it was in that moment that I think everything changed for me. So after that, I started conversations with my sister. We kind of decided that I would move in with her for most of the time. I still had my apartment in Stanford. I needed to be with family and I needed to be with friends and loved ones because I felt like I couldn't be alone. I didn't trust myself to be alone. I didn't want to be alone. So I was spending most of my time with her until my lease was up in Connecticut. I think really saved me too. Was just having my sisters and my family and everyone. Now at this point, I talked with my sister. She was like, "I definitely think that we need to look into therapy. You need to start to talk to somebody." That has been one of the greatest blessings ever. So took a bit, and it was especially during COVID. I'm sure people know that like therapists were so overwhelmed and they had a massive client load. And so trying to find one, a therapist that could take me onto their workload, and also a therapist that I got along with was going to be a bit of a challenge. Therapy, like finding a therapist is like dating. Like you need to find the right one. You need to find the one that you jive with, that you like, that you feel like you can be vulnerable with and open up with. Was recommended a few therapists, and I finally found one that I really connected with. I'm not going to mention her name for privacy reasons and such, but she has been so incredible, and it it's so funny to go into therapy each week, and even things that I think I'm like, I have nothing to talk about this week, and all of a sudden you just, it starts like spewing out of you. And so that's been really nice to talk to someone, a third party, that an unbiased third party that you can just speak to and talk about your you know, stories and your experiences and your feelings and everything, and for them to just give you a different perspective. The amount of times that I have looked at her and I'm like, well, you know, this, that, and the third, and she goes, well, did you think about it like this? And just completely flip-flopped my view, or like some, like the way that I was seeing it or thinking about it into a different light has helped me so much. So I started therapy, and there were not many sessions into it that she said, listen, I'm going to recommend you to a psychiatrist. And I said, a psychiatrist? I go, don't they put you on medicine? Like, I don't need to be on medicine. And she's like, I would like for you to see a psychiatrist just for another evaluation. She goes, I think maybe you do need to be put on some type of medication. Now, for me, growing up where in a house where we didn't really talk about being on medication and having this, like, I know in the world and societies it's a bit of a taboo to be on medicine for mental health. Again, I was like, I'm too strong. I'm not the one that needs to be on medication. Like, I'm the strong friend. I'm the this. It's, again, that scared me. So I was recommended to a great psychiatrist, and we chatted. And she goes, listen, she's like, this is not your fault, Amanda. She's like, after, like, you know, an evaluation and such, she goes, I do believe that there is something biochemically going on. It's putting you at a disadvantage for your healing journey. And that's not your fault. She goes, all that this medication is going to do is biochemically going to bring you back to neutral so that you can really start to deal with the issues. And so that you can really start your healing journey. Because without the medication, it would be like going into therapy, taking 2 steps forward, but then biochemically, I'm taking a step back. I also understand, too, that the medicine isn't the answer. And I've learned that. You're not going to be put on meds and problem solved, happiness, eternal happiness, greatest ever. Like, that's not how it works. It must be, at least for me, coupled with therapy. The medicine is only supposed to bring you back to neutral. And then you got to put the work in. Something that was really hard for me was when I found out that I need to be put on meds, telling my family. I was, at this point, when I started, I was ashamed and I was embarrassed. That was really hard. And all I remember was I was helping my sister out a couple days a week with the kids, picking up from daycare, dropping off at daycare, taking to dance class and things like that. And I was so afraid that she would think that I was unfit to do that and to take care of her children because I was on medication. And I was so scared that, you know, my time would be limited with the kids, or, you know, I wasn't healthy enough, I wasn't well enough to take care of, these children, for her and her husband to trust me with this massive responsibility, of course, then you start to get in your thoughts. And when I went and told my family, I got nothing but overwhelming love and support from my sisters and from my sister with the kids. And I was so scared. And I told her how nervous I was. And she was like, what? She was like, Amanda, she goes, I trust you. And I trust you with my kids. And, I'm so happy that you're doing this and that you're figuring out what you need to find your happiness because you deserve it. And she was like, so you'll be there to drop Savannah off at dance, right? And take her to dance. It was like, it felt so good to have that love and support from them. Because it can be really scary talking to family and friends about this. They have one perspective of you and one thought of you, and then it's different. And it's like, no, actually, I'm not this person that you thought that I was. And I realized, too, that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to get help. Being diagnosed with anxiety and depression has been a journey. I will never truly be healed. I feel like I'm never going to be like, nope, I don't have depression. I don't have anxiety. It's something that you learn to accept, you learn to deal with, and you learn to heal and find those things that do make you happy. And that's what I'm doing now. That's the journey that I'm on now. After I told my family, I then opened up to my best friends. Now, I'm talking, this mental break happened in September. I didn't tell my friends until February. That's a long time to be hiding this journey and this mental state and this everything, because I was ashamed and I was scared, and I started to feel what I call, I don't know if this is the right term or what, but I started to feel sadness guilt, feeling guilty about being sad, all of these things. And I remember I sat down with my best friend at a local bar, and I was like, we need to talk and I need to tell you something. And I told her everything. And of course, I was met with nothing but support and love. I really appreciate that. And she's like, Amanda, she goes, I wish that you told me sooner. She goes, I wish that you had come to us sooner, because we want to love you through this and we want to support you through this and we want to be there for you. She goes, you're there for everybody. You're there for all of us all of the time. She goes, let us be there for you. She goes, you need to grant us that access and you need to allow that. She goes, we can't force ourselves in if we don't know what's going on. And we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. I told her, I was like, you know what? I'm just so used to playing this certain role in all of my friendships in my life. And I was like, I'm so sick of being strong. Being strong is exhausting. And those people who are, it is exhausting. I just remember thinking, I don't want to be strong anymore. I need help and I need support and I need love, and I don't want to be strong. Me and my sister joke, that quote where it's like, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. Fuck that. I'm sick of being the strongest soldier. I'm tired. And I'm all set. And I was feeling at this point, I've learned my lessons. I'm good. I'm all good on lessons. I'm all set. Thank you so much. But all set on lessons. All set on being your strong soldier. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let people love you. It's okay to let love in and to let that support in. And to be honest. Be brutally honest with yourself. Be brutally honest with your friends and family. It's been a journey over the last couple years. It happened, so I had what we call, my mental break, or what I later found out from my therapist was a sobbing attack, a panic attack, anxiety attack. It's been a little over 2 years now, and what I've learned is that healing isn't linear. Healing, there's so much to healing, and so much, it can be chaos. And that's why when I was thinking about how I was going to talk about this and how I was going to format the show and this episode specifically, because I want it to make sense to my listeners. I don't want to be on a rant. I don't want to ramble. I want it to make sense. And so I want it to be structured, because I want you to be able to get as much out of it as you can and to relate to as much as you can. I realize though that it feels like chaos because it is chaos. This healing journey, there's ups and downs and steps forward and steps back, and that's okay. There are days where you feel beat the fuck down. Like, I feel beat down some days, and there are days where I have a hard time finding motivation. And that's one thing that I talk about with my therapist, is that we always start every session with, all right, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. How's your motivation? How's your energy? And how's your sleep? There are days where I'm like, I'm just not motivated to do shit. I have a full list of things I need to do, errands I need to run, and I can't get myself off the couch. I know that I should, but I can't get myself off the couch. Energy is another thing where I know a lot of my happiness and stuff comes from my energy. And when you're feeling sad and low, your energy is low. And then something else that has truly really been affected by my anxiety and depression has been my sleep. My sleep, I have found, for me personally, is like such an indicator of how I'm feeling during the day. I was having a problem getting to sleep and staying asleep. So my body like would not fully shut down, it felt like, and I was up every hour. And it's miserable. When you don't sleep, you feel like shit. That was kind of spewing over into my day and into my energy and motivation. So those are things that I have truly been trying to work on. And, you know, things that now I'm really starting to put into my daily routine is I feel good when I work out and when I go and take bounce classes at a really incredible studio where there's just love and support and no judgment. I like going, one, for the workout, but two, for the community. So that's something that I know. Amanda, you got to get up. You got to get up in the morning. You got to get up and you got to do something. And these are all just little tricks that I've learned about myself. I know everyone is different. But for me, this is kind of what my journey has looked like. I wanted to start this podcast to talk about things like this. If you know me or you knew me, I think that this might surprise a few people that this is how I have felt or what I've been going through. And because it's a surprise to people and because I tried to hide it for so long, that's why I want to start this podcast, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm on a journey to be alone but not lonely. And I think a lot of people are. I want you to know that it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to allow yourself to sit in that feeling. There are resources, there are people that you can reach out to and talk to. Because I think that that's been a big theme of mine too, is feeling alone and feeling lonely and like I'm the only one. And the truth is I'm not. And you're not. I wanted to do this so that we could do it together and to take this journey together, to know that you don't always have to be the strong one. You don't always have to be the strong friend. Let your friends in. Let the love in. You deserve to be happy. You have a right, a divine right, to be happy. There's plenty of different facets to that. Your health, your social life, your romantic relationships, your friend relationships, your family relationships. And these are all things that we're going to get into in later episodes. We'll break all of those kinds of things down. And just know, too, that, you know, healing isn't linear and it's a journey. And I've only recently started my journey. I'm new to this. I hope you guys really like this episode. I realized and I promised myself that I was going to be vulnerable throughout this entire process, because it's the only way that it's fair to you and it's fair to me to tell the truth and be vulnerable. And I promise to continue doing that. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys thought of the episode. Please let me know in the comments. If you could subscribe, that would be great. We'd love it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. get excited for next week. This was a little bit of a heavier episode. I want to talk about something a little bit lighter next week. So I have recently done something new that I've never done before. This past summer, I took 2 solo trips abroad. It's something that has honestly truly changed my life. It's something that really feeds into me learning to be alone but not lonely. I would love to talk to you guys about the process and kind of how I got there. Hopefully help some of you who have maybe been thinking about taking a trip alone. You didn't know where to start. So I'm really excited. Just remember, guys, that I'm too pretty to be unhappy, and so are you. Let's do this thing together and let's heal together.